Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Alpha Pixel tutorial. My name is AJ, and today I will be introducing the exciting new plugin from my friend Loss, which I consider the missing link between Cinema 4D and After Effects. It has the functionality that we all wish was built into Cinema 4D, and honestly I can't believe that it's not in there already. I know that Cinema has their compositing project file, but it's really just a pain to export that way, and if you have to change something you have to go back and do it all again. Well, Loss has come up with the AE C4D plugin, and actually his first version has been out for a while now. It's just a one-click solution for exporting position data, cameras, objects, nulls, anything like that, right to After Effects. And today we have the version 2.0, which he's been working hard on the last several months to bring us that functionality that we've all wanted in a nice, simple, easy, and intuitive interface. So without further ado, let's jump right in. I'm going to go ahead and just click the plugin here. And this time we get a little interface when we click it. And it's something we could just leave up or dock because it'll be useful to leave up on your screen as you're working with it. So overall, you'll see that it's very simple. There's just 3 tabs to work with and a couple of buttons on the bottom. He's designed it very nicely so that it is, for the most part, a one-click solution. And we will go over those right now. So I'm going to actually switch scenes here to kind of demonstrate what this does, and we'll come back to this laptop scene to show you the real power of this plugin. But just to give you a little overview, we're gonna jump into a new scene and show you some of the new features. So our first tab here is the Overview tab, and that will show you the objects that you will be exporting to After Effects. So if I go ahead and make a few objects here, I'm just going to make a couple of cubes, and I'm going to just duplicate them over here, and just going to make a few here. So you'll see we have these cubes here, and there are a few ways we can export them. One is to just select them and drag them into the Overview panel, and that means anything that's in here, if nothing is selected, anything that's in here gets sent to After Effects using this button right here, which will automatically send everything in the Overview panel to After Effects. Otherwise, if we have objects individually selected, we can just export, say, those 2 cubes and hit Send to After Effects. You'll also notice that selecting objects in the Object Manager also selects them in the Overview panel, so they kind of go hand in hand. You can select them all in here, and it will select them all in there as well. And you'll notice anything in the Overview panel gets a compositing tag automatically. And if we go ahead and delete these objects, you'll notice the compositing tag goes away. The other way to add these into the Overview panel is if you did go into Cinema 4D tags and go to external compositing tag. Sorry, not the compositing tag, the external compositing tag. So whatever object has this tag will show up in the Overview panel here. And also this button here does that as well. It sort of just turns those objects either on or off with those compositing tags. So let's go ahead and just create a camera. I'm going to add this back to the list here, and I'm going to create a camera. I'm going to view through that camera, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit Send to After Effects. Oh, and you'll see that right away it just sent the camera, and that's because I had the camera selected. If I had nothing selected and hit that again, it will send all of our objects. And you'll notice something else too. It created 2 compositions. So this is the first one I sent, and this is the second one I sent. It created a whole new composition with everything in there. I'm just going to make it a white background really quick. So it made a whole new composition. Every time you click this, if you were to just left click this, it would create a new composition. I'll go ahead and click it again, and you'll see it made a 3rd composition. So anytime you click that, it makes a new composition. If you want it to import into the current composition, if you hover over this, you can see it. You hold Shift and click this, and it will import into the current composition that you have open in After Effects. So let's actually go back to that first one I made. We'll delete the other 2. because this one had nothing in it besides the camera. We'll go back to Cinema and we'll just grab our cubes and we'll hit Shift and import into current composition. And if we go back, you'll see it imported all those cubes. And we'll go back and make our background white again. And there you go. Everything looks just as it does here in Cinema. And of course, these are cubes which have depth, but obviously you can't export a full 3D object into After Effects. So these planes are the size of the bounding box of these cubes, which is how the plane is calculated from the bounding box. So if we go ahead and add a plane in here, and I'm going to just set it upright, and I'm going to make it a little bit wider. And so without this even in the overview panel, if we just have it selected over here, we can also shift click and add it in. And I did shift click there, and whoops. And you'll see the plane actually looks different from what it does in Cinema. That's because I moved the camera. So the other great thing is that's new in this plugin and 2.0 is that we can update our layers. So we can go ahead and just click this, or if we wanted to update just an individual layer, we could click that and hit update. And by default, it will automatically update within your current composition, so you don't have to do any shift clicking on that. So I'm just going to update the camera, and now you see it matches exactly what we see here. And also, the plane matches exactly how I have it set up in Cinema. So let's go ahead and just make that a lot skinnier, and I'm going to update that plane, and you'll see it updates. That's awesome. So, and also really quick with this, I'm going to go into the settings here and show you a few of the settings that you can mess with. So I'm going to skip this for just a second and talk about this because we're on this talking about this plane right here. So this auto scale here is doing exactly what we're seeing when I'm adjusting this and refreshing it. It is auto scaling the plane in After Effects based on what we have in Cinema. Now if we didn't have that checked, and I go, I don't think it even matters what I do here. I can make this whatever and just hit refresh, and it should just make it a square. It's just going to make it the default plain square size. So no scaling at all. So I think most of the time you'll definitely want that checked. And then also this anchor point to center. By default in After Effects, I believe 000 is usually the upper left corner of the plane. But this is going to center the pivot point to the middle. So if we have that unchecked and also just refresh that, you'll see that it makes the anchor point in the upper left. So again, another thing you're probably going to want checked, both of those. And also add as a shape layer. So right now it is a shape layer, and if we turn that off, it's going to make that object come in as a null object. So let me just make a new object really quick right here, and I'm going to turn off that add shape layer, and I'm going to just add that object, and you'll see it added it as a null that time. And we did have the auto scaling on, so it's actually going to appear as if it's a plane, but it's still just a null. Okay, next one, export marker. This one's very cool because and it's something I kind of underutilize in Cinema 4D, but in the timeline you can add markers to your project. So if you go up to Edit, Marker, and Create Marker at Current Frame, you get that little marker indicator right there. And we get over in the Attribute Manager, we get some information on it, and it's just called 2. I don't know. I think I might have made one earlier. Whatever we name it here will show up in After Effects, so I'm just going to call it my exported marker. And actually, another thing that's cool that we can do is we can set a length on this. So if we make it 20 frames, it's going to stretch out to frame 30 there. Or we can just say animation here. That might be more helpful. So then we'll go back to the view here, and we will hit refresh. And you'll see animation here, and it gives you actually that frame range, which is super helpful if you want an indicator on when things should happen in your animation. So moving right along, you'll see this only PSR button down here. That has to do with another amazing feature in AE C4D Pro. Let's actually just kind of clean things up a little bit to illustrate this one here. I'm going to go into After Effects and just get rid of that. Start fresh a little bit here. And this has to do with objects as well as type. So one of the new features is that you can now send type over to After Effects from Cinema 4D, which is amazing. Now you can do it through the MoText, which is great. It will not support the kerning and all that, and it will obviously not support the depth as well, so it doesn't matter if you use the MoText here or the spline object text. So we're just going to utilize the spline object here and say send it to C4D. And I'm going to move it over here. And I'm just going to create my camera. I guess I didn't need to get rid of that. So I'll just show you that really quick here and go to the overview. And I'm just going to select these two and hit go. And of course you won't see anything because my background by default is black. Let's just make it white. And there you have it. I'm actually going to, just update the text really quick. For some reason it came in all caps. I just hit refresh and it made it correct for caps and lowercase there. But everything lined up perfectly. So one of the other cool things you can do with objects and text is that if you go into the basic tab and turn color on, and let's just say we wanted this text to be blue for the time being, we just hit our text and hit update and it changes it blue. Awesome. So with that other option here, only PSR, so let's actually just move it down and actually scale it down. We'll check only PSR, but we're going to change the color to red. So only PSR is saying that only update position, scale, rotation. If we change the color, we don't need to update that. So I'm just going to hit update and you'll see it will not change to red. It will only adjust the position, scale, rotation. But if we go back and uncheck that and hit refresh, you'll see it did change the color. And we will also just real quick show you that we can update the text. Didn't really make sense, but I'm going to just do it anyway and hit update. Added that pro at the end there. So that is amazing. Finally, we don't have to position our text and type in After Effects 3D space, which is of course a pain, as we all know. We can do it right here in After Effects, or right here in Cinema 4D, which is so much easier. So now for the couple of things we just skipped over here, we can set by default which version of After Effects we're using. If we do want to go back to an older version, we can just set this and it will update with the After Effects 2018 version instead of 2019. And of course, if you have a version in a different location, you can just choose where that is. And another way to do that is if you go down here to the AE button, which by default this switches to your After Effects version instantly as soon as you click that. This button also does a couple of other amazing things. So if you hover, you'll see if you alt click, you get to pick your version there as well. If you didn't want to go into the settings every time, you can just alt click and choose your version. And if you shift click, you're going to get this little pop up here, which is where I'll jump into this monitor test quickly and show you what this is. But this is one of my favorite new features and one that I had been hoping for a long time in some sort of link between Cinema 4D and After Effects. So let's switch over here. I have this quick little animation of a laptop, and actually use this AE C4D on a project for work, and this is just sort of simulating that a little bit of that project, just a lot more simplified. And this model is just the default Cinema 4D laptop. Obviously, I can't be using that commercial model for commercial projects in this. So here's just the little content browser laptop that opens up with a little camera move on it here. And I've already gone ahead and rendered the main color pass for it. So when you shift click this, you'll see this sequences button here, and it has found my render. So let me go into the render settings real fast. Whoops, I always do that. If I go into the render settings really quick here, just show you I just rendered it to the desktop, in a folder called laptop render. That's all my files there. So as long as your output is referencing the folder that all your files are in, this will know exactly where all of your image sequences and multipasses are. So if I shift click that, go sequences and import, you can either import all sequences if you have a bunch of them, or you can select individually. So since I only have one, I'll just select that. And if we jump over to After Effects, well, here, let's do this first. I didn't export the scene, so let me just again delete all that. Go back here. I'm going to output the scene, so I am going to add in my camera, and I'm going to add in my laptop. And the other thing I want is my screen, but I'll add that in a minute. So with these two, we'll just output it. And also notice that it names your composition, the composition, or your Cinema 4D file name as well, which is really nice. So we have here our, make that background white again. Of course, our laptop is just a null. It's just for positioning purposes. It knows exactly where our laptop is. So if we go in here and we do that shift click and we import our sequence, we head back, you'll see that our sequence is there. And if we look at our little null, you'll see it's moving perfectly with our laptop there. And what I was using this for in this project was to be able to replace the laptop screen in After Effects. So I wanted to have a movie sequence of some kind here in After Effects and just be able to place that perfectly on the screen and have it move along with the laptop lid, which also lets me easily change that later. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to import a text, or I'm going to import an image from my desktop to use as the screen as the screen image for this laptop. So I'm going to double click there and just import this texture. So now to get this perfectly lined up with the screen, I need the screen's position. We're going to toggle down all of this, and actually I'm just going to select this and we'll get the screen here, and we're going to export this. I'm going to shift click to update the composition with this object. Of course, we go back to After Effects, and there is the screen right there. So we have our screen position here. If we look, it's that null there is rotating along with the screen. And if we now go ahead and turn our image into a 3D layer, it's going to jump over there. We're going to shift and pick whip on that image onto the screen object there. And then all we need to do is rotate it 90 degrees because our null was positioned that way with its axis orientation there, and we'll just scale it down. You'll see it lines up with the edges perfectly. Of course, our image is slightly different aspect ratio than the screen there, so we're going to make it a little bit larger, and then we will go ahead and jump back into Cinema 4D really quick. And a little shameless plug for my own plugin, the Quick Matte Pro. And I'm just going to select the screen there and hit Add to Matte. So then when I render, all I get is the screen there. And I'm going to go into the render settings here and just save that really quick into that same folder. And you can make a new folder. It will recognize it into a subfolder. I'll just do multi-pass folder in case I add any more passes there. So I got that, and in there I will save it as laptop render screen alpha, or let's just put screen alpha, and then just put a little underscore for our image sequence. Go save, and I'm just gonna hit render really fast. This should render almost instantly because, and you'll notice the first few frames are black. That is because the laptop was opening, so we couldn't see the screen there. So now you'll see the matte being made, and it's super fast because we're just rendering a simple straight black and white image, and it should be done in just a second. So now once that is done here, we will do our shift click and we will see that we have a sequence in there. So because we have set our render setting here to this multipass layer, it's going to look only within that folder. So if we actually back it up to our previous top level folder and then hit the shift, then we'll get both of those. So it'll look in your current folder and down. It won't look up into your folder outside of your current folder. So, and you'll see that it found also, it's interesting, it also found our AP wave still, which we could have imported from here. But if we go to the screen alpha and hit that, now in After Effects, that alpha channel is there, lined up perfectly. So then all we need to do is just set our Luma mat there, and boom. And then if we hit go here, you will see that it sticks perfectly. Now if we add any new image, let me go ahead and just add this modeling cam image here, and oops, let's undo that. Now if we go and add this modeling cam image, I'm just going to I'm just going to select the image there and Alt drag on top to replace, and it's a little bit smaller, so we will scale it up. And of course it doesn't quite fit, but that's okay. We can just take our anchor point and adjust to at least get our words in there. And there you go. You can easily just swap whatever's on the screen there. And it was very easy to just import all of the, multi-passes and the position data, all of that, just super easy. And if things changed, if we wanted a different camera move, just hit the update button. I'm just going to jump back really fast here and just see if there's anything else I missed. We've got all the buttons covered up in the settings, null settings. So this is just going to be your scale and what, how your null comes in. It's going to equal 100 pixels equals 100 centimeters here in After Effects or in Cinema 4D. You can have a checkbox here to bake MoGraph. If you are sending MoGraph objects over and say you're doing dynamics, you can bake those objects and their position data will come through. And reset default just resets all of the settings back to their default settings. Import passes, and if you want to look into a specific folder, if you did want to look and set it up for a specific pass folder that you'll continually use, you can just specify that here, and it will find those when you do your shift click. And there is one final thing I'm going to show you, and that was in the shift click here. There's a textures area. It says no textures found, and what that means is if I just drag a still into Cinema 4D here, it'll put the still onto a material. Now, and all it is just a little drop to floor. If I go plain, you'll see it's just a little drop to floor image that I used. If I shift click now, you'll see textures, and it will look into your materials and find the images associated with your materials. So I can just really quick import that into After Effects as well. And there it is. It imported it right into my scene. Of course, I don't need to use this, but if you did, say, have this set up in Cinema 4D as the main image, you could export that image into After Effects as an image and use it that way. So just super handy. Just anything you want to get between Cinema 4D and After Effects, you can do with this plugin. It's really amazing. So really nice job to Lass on this, and I would definitely recommend checking it out. I know I'll be using this a ton in future projects, so if you're into saving time, then this might be the perfect plugin for you. And really quick, just here in the extras, just some licensing stuff, and also he has a very nice documentation with anything you need to know about any of the buttons, and just a quick link to the AE Scripts page where he sells the plugin. If you are looking for updates or anything like that, you can quickly get there. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this overview, and there will be more tutorials to come as always, so check back to the alphapixel.net website or here on the YouTube channel, and we will see you guys in the next tutorial.